I remember the first kill house run I did with the squadron that I went to, thinking, what? How are you doing this so quickly? Why is no one talking? How can you read people's body language like this? How are you so accurate at this speed? I still remember that feeling of just being blown away by the capability and the lethality of those organizations. It's unbelievable.
I think I heard this related to being a part of Green Team. It's like the hood drill. Is that part of it?
I'm pretty sure that selection started, I think it was in February or March, but we moved over there in December, or at least checked in December. The oral interview and the physical test, the 3-day process, happened, I want to say it was post 9/11, because I remember being asked about it in the interview process. So I had completed 2 pre-9/11 platoons, which is just the very structured pre-9/11 regimented template of training for roughly 18 months, deploy overseas for 6 months, and then just come back. Yeah, I screened after 9/11.
What did they ask you that you remember about 9/11?
It was more long. It's when I went through selection, it was not a guarantee that you were going to end up at an assault squadron, because there are incredibly high capability boats at that command as well too. And I'm going to be very clear. I'm very dated on what that command is up to. But they asked essentially, where do you want to go? And would you be okay? Are you still interested if you had to go to the boat squadron? I have nothing but the absolute respect for anybody who works on that side. I wanted to be an assaulter. And I'm going to say, I think everybody did too. No data to support that. So what a great interview question. What if we can bring you over, but the only thing we have open is boats? What are your thoughts on that? And you're sitting in this, it's the classic make the interviewee uncomfortable. The horseshoe around you. You're in your dress uniform in this little like fold up elementary school desk where you like wedge yourself in there and you're just like,
just do that on purpose.
100%. Nothing, almost nothing in life is truly accidental, right? What a fantastic way to get the person uncomfortable. And you're sitting there in this, there's a shrink in there that you just had a conversation with the day before, because you got to do, the first day was like PT test, psychological assessment, the bubble test, like all this stuff. Then the next day, the shrink sits down with everybody and talks with you, which is a fantastically wild experience in and of itself. And then you go for your oral interview. That's the last thing that you do. And he's in there in the room too. And I'm sure the shrink has probably told everybody about you before you come in for your interview anyway, right? Because it's not like everybody's in there at the same time. It's one at a time and you walk in there. So I remember the question being phrased through that lens of, knowing where the world is going now. If you're going to end up going to boats, what do you want to do? And my answer was, I don't care where you guys send me. I will do whatever job that you ask me to do. I'm not going to lie and say that I don't want to be an assaulter, but I will do the best job I possibly can anywhere, and I will work myself towards a different position if the opportunity presents itself.
That's a good answer.
I think it's the only one that you can give. So for my class, when we were going through selection, it wasn't until 2.5 months in. Dude, this was a rough day. We were out we were jumping in Arizona. We had been out there for quite some time. And I remember they came in, they had done the draft, meaning they had decided who was going to go to assault and who was going to go to boats. And they said to the class, okay, there's 2 ways we can do this. Do you want us to read off the names of people who are going to assaults?
Oh.
Or do you want us to read off the names of people that are going to boats? And we're going to do it alphabetically. So you're either hoping to hear your name or not, right? And I don't remember how we did it. I think we did it though through the names of people that were going to the boat side of the house. And it was a Friday. People were getting drunk that Friday for different reasons.
Yes. Fuck.
Dude, it's gnarly.
Yeah.
So you're 2+ months into that pipeline, right? You've already had your glorious shopping experience, if you will, with the 3 shopping carts. You've already gone through the initial CQB phase. You're now into the jumping phase. And at that point, the people who went to assaults, that was your focus, right? get you to an operational level where you're not going to kill somebody else in the assault squadron, and then they can work with you. And the other people were going towards focusing on the boats.
Okay, so just take a quick step back. Their boats are like, is it like they have their own advanced SDV sort of thing?
No, it wasn't. It was literally like, what were they called? HSACs, high speed assault craft. If you look at what the actual origin of development group was about, it was about cruise liner takedowns. Much like for the CAG or the Delta guys, it was for aircraft. That was the actual one of the original charters. I also think it's fantastic that neither of those elements have ever actually had to do that for real. But that's what they were largely founded around. So these would be the boats that you would drive up to approach a vessel like that and then board.
So are they the same ones that you guys would jump with?
Yeah. When they would line those things up and push them out of aircraft, holy hell. The first one's moving pretty good. But when the second one gets going, which is way farther inside of the aircraft, and you can see smoke coming off the rollers, bro. Yeah. You're like, where can I stand/sit where I am not going to involuntarily become part of this evolution? Yeah. And then the boat guys would chase them out. Yeah. And then they would go get the boat set up, and then the assault guys would go after.
Okay. And then you mentioned so you talked about this interview process, PT, shrinks in the room. This is all before you even get to Green Team.
Oh, this is before you even know if you're going to screen positive. This is all for them looking at the pool of candidates. They released a message, which I think just looks like an email. And it's like, hey, if you're interested in coming to this place, put your name into the hat, inform your commanding officer through the chain of command. You put in a special request sheet for the ability to go put your name in the hat. You go and do all those tests. You go and interview. You don't leave that interview knowing whether or not you got selected positive or not. They release another message with the names of the people that did. And I don't think they release a message for the names of the people that didn't. Either your name's on the list or your name's not on the list. And then that aligns you with, okay, these people have screened positive. This is when your selection is going to start. See you then.
Okay, so the psychology stuff for that whole pipeline, was that done on the front end or was that continuous throughout the entire process?
I only saw a psych or a shrink. I don't know which one he was in the initial where he reviewed your bubble test. Have you ever taken one of these bubble tests?
No.
So there's no yes, no answers. It's strongly disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree. One of the questions that I got was, is the pole vault your favorite televised event? I mean, strongly disagree, of course, unless it's your thing. Why that's on there, I don't know. But then you sit down with the guy. I think I sat with him for 30 minutes and he asks you some questions. And I actually think it's a little bit of a way for them to do a little bit of a pre-screener. So they have some stuff they can talk to you about in the interview process itself. And one of the questions, he asked me, he's like, do you ever break the law? And I started laughing. He goes, what are you laughing about? I'm like, every day. He's like, what? I'm like, I definitely was speeding on my way to work today. And so he starts laughing. He goes, you have no idea how uncommon that answer is. I said, what do you mean? He said, I've asked people if they've ever broken the law, and they will sit there in your chair until they are blue in the face and tell me that they have never broken the law. And then I remember asking him, like, how's that interview go for them the next day? He was like, why don't you take a guess? So I've never had a problem talking with psychs and shrinks. Like, I know I'm crazy. It's like, it's their job to help me figure out how to do something with this crazy. So I'm open with them.
All right. So you pass the PT and like the pre-screening portion, I guess it's called, right?
You talking about for development group?
Green Team.
Yeah, it was, what did they call it? It was an interview process.
Okay.
Yeah. I screened positive. I got the message that we were going to be going and starting in the selection course that started in 2002.
Okay. So you get there.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is Green Team? How does it work?
So if Buds is looking for people, they're both about 6 months. So I get probably a good analogy. Buds, the curriculum is looking for people who have the mental toughness to survive in the occupation. Selection, I would describe this, I've never seen this written anywhere, is looking for people who possess the technical ability to perform at the level required for that command. You're no longer being tested to see if you're tough enough to be there. You are being tested on your ability to operate in the variety of areas that SEALs are expected to operate. And it's challenging. You lose probably about 40% of guys. And those guys, this is not the end of the world. There's no guillotine that lops your head off. For whatever reason, and a lot of it happens in the shooting portion. It was about, I think, 30 to 45 days of shooting to begin with. And that is room clearing, starting with 2 people, then to 4. And then, it goes again. It was less of a crawl, walk, run. Let me tell you that much intentionally, because they're trying to ramp up the stress, and I appreciate it. So less of a crawl, walk, run. But it's not that it was the first time that anybody had done it. But if you don't meet the standard, it's not like you're a bad team guy. It's not like you're going to be looked upon negatively. And if you want to come back, assuming that you left on terms where they would accept you back and it wasn't for a DUI, which again, that happens also, administrative separation, you're going to get the chance to come back. So you're being tested on your ability to operate as a SEAL. That's what I would describe it as.
So what are the main training blocks?
So the first 2 for us were, again, the essentially room clearance. And that's a portion of what we were doing. I mean, like you're on the rifle range, on the pistol range. So all of that stuff, like just the kinetic inside of a structure type stuff. Then we went to jumping, and then everything after that was tailored around either structure clearing or the things that you do to get there, integrating with helicopters, integrating in an urban environment. How do we navigate an urban environment and maybe fight out of vehicles if we need to get to an objective to do our job? And if you think about it, that's kind of the job, right? Find, fix, and finish. Somebody else is probably going to find the person. Maybe they can fix them in place, but at some point in time, somewhere, there is a threshold of a door that is going to need to be opened and crossed. That's where the job kind of begins, in my opinion. So it was all different varieties of that. We did some diving though too, some additional jump training, some FTX or full mission training profile type stuff where you would jump into a vehicle, link up to go do an urban type stuff. So it was all really just focused towards that kinetic environment that the assault squadrons are really oriented towards. And even then, I remember the first kill house run I did with the squadron that I went to, thinking, what? Blown away. Like, what? How are you doing this so quickly? How are you doing this so efficiently? Why is no one talking? How can you read people's body language like this? How does this person know how to do that so well? How are you so accurate at this speed? And then going home that night, looking in the mirror like, do you belong here? It was wild, man. It was cool. I mean, the SEAL teams were everything I thought they were going to be. The selection course was awesome. And then you get to this squad, you're just like, where do you guys keep your capes? I mean, that was my first thought. And that might be stupid to say, but I still remember that feeling of just being blown away by the capability and the lethality of those organizations. It's unbelievable.
So this is what, after you already make it through and get to your squadron, you said you do that run and you're blown away, or this is...
Yeah, it was like the first week after you're introduced to your new team, right? You're the new guy. Don't worry. Nobody's watching you on your first run, right? I remember I think it was in the first week. In training programs, there are things that make sense and there are things that you can grade students on. And sometimes they overlap. A good example is when you're going to be, you have a selector switch on fire versus on safe. In a training environment, specifically in selection, they are watching exactly when you are manipulating your safeties. Because A, it's safe, but B, can you follow the protocol and procedure that we're teaching you, right? So it's an additional layer of them taking a look at you. And you were on safe a lot. And I remember on one of the runs, this had to be within my first month, we were outside of the kill house and we were walking up and we were already like in a tactical formation. And I was the first guy up front. I was the point man and I was on safe. But I had my gun up. I could have used it. Not that you're going to set up in a training scenario any of these shots necessarily. And one of the guys who had put me through training, who was from that squadron, rolls up next to me over my shoulder and he goes, "Put your weapon on fire." Like, son of a bitch, we are not in the training world anymore. Because that, in the world of approaching the kill house in a training environment and selection, no. But it's this, I remember that like, okay, like we are playing by the biggest big boy rules that there are now.
So you're saying, as far as like keeping your weapon on safe, the rules changed once you got to a squadron, and the way you guys cleared a building was different than how you were taught to or graded on in selection.
So going backwards, the way that we cleared was enhanced from the way we were taught. They were building on that foundation, but moving at a velocity and doing additional things on top of that I hadn't even understood yet. When to be on fire and when to be on safe was the difference between an administrative environment and training like it's for real. Because overseas, let me tell you right now, if I'm on point and we're approaching a structure, I am on fire. I'm not on safe. Training scars are very real. You would think it doesn't take any time to flip from one to the other. It does.
What about when you're inside the house?
Depends on where you are and what you're doing. If you're in the stack, you're going to be on safe. If you're up front, you're probably going to be on fire. If there's nothing in front of you, you're probably going to be on fire. If you're entering a room, holding on a door, squadrons may have a different take on that. The CAG guys may have a different take on that. But it's not that the rules are relaxed. It's that you are expected to understand where you are and what is expected of you and to be prepared to answer the problems that might be thrown at you.
Well, that makes sense. So when you're doing these like the house runs, room clearing, CQB, before you get to your squadron, what are some of the ways that they would like overwhelm you and try to test how you process information?
When you're first starting off, you can have a totally open room and a single target in a corner. Not a lot of information to uptake, process, and have to make a decision. You could structure that as you go. You could put furnitures. You could put furnitures, plural. Great English utilization. Furniture. You could put targets in there, a mix of shoot, don't shoot, barricades, things you have to maneuver around, which if you're going to maneuver and go outside of the standard template that we use, there's probably going to be some communication, verbal and largely in the training environment, mostly body language based in the real world environment. So you can layer in complexity. If you look at to use a simple example, a long hallway, like in any hotel, all the doors are closed. You can see the end of the hallway. That's one type of tactical problem. Long hallway, half the doors are open, half the doors are closed. Getting more complex. Not that it's harder, but you have to view it differently, right? You probably don't want to just go hauling ass past open doors. You're going to need to take care of that. Then same hallway, doors open on both sides, or a mix of open doors and closed doors. It's checkerboarded down along the way. Not harder, different answer. So you can introduce complexity by just changing the geometry in the room and what's being thrown at the people. And that's exactly what they would do.
Mm. What about something, I think I heard this related to being a part of Green Team, is like the hood drill. Is that part of it?
Depends on when you went through. There was, I'm going to leave the name out of this because I've heard this person is very litigious, but you do a version of the hooded box drill. And, God, it's a part of a particular person's training pipeline. And we did in fact do this. And there's the training that leads up to it, like a self-defense combatives pipeline that we did, where you get hit in the head a lot for about half of a day, and then you would go do kill house runs, or you would do kill house runs and then get hit in the head a lot because they would split our class up. They put a hood over, and I remember it being in a taped box, and you're standing there, and some of them you were armed, some of them you weren't, and it's a snapshot assessment in front of you. The hood comes up. What are you going to do? And sometimes it's a kinetic answer or tactical answer. Sometimes it's de-escalation. Sometimes the answer is run your ass off, get out of the square. So we definitely did do that. The people who swear by that system will tell you that once you've done that, you have been forged and it would be unsafe for you to do it again. And you have like crossed this lexicon or Rubicon. I thought it was interesting, but I don't think it was earth shattering. We did participate in that. I don't know if they still do that anymore. It was interesting.
So you're saying this was some third party that came in and
Third party
administered-
vendor. Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
So not everything is administered in-house?
No. The best people in the world at fill in the blank are not in the military. The best shooters in the world are not in the military. The best rock climbers in the world, not in the military. You mentioned Jeff Provenzano. He will crush any military jumper. So what do? You bring those people in. And that's also one of the beautiful things about that command is you have the budget to source subject matter experts at fill in the blank, bring them to you, and you can focus on exactly what they do. Take what works for your operational role because they don't even necessarily have to know how you're going to utilize it. Take all of their beta and decades worth of knowledge, absorb that, carve off what doesn't work for the job, and then you can reintegrate and teach the rest of the squadron. So a lot of the training is actually third-party vendors outsourced because you want the best people in the world.
Well, that makes total sense.
Yep.
And so like, what are they, obviously, like you said, it sounds like it becomes very operational, right? You're doing like full mission profile stuff towards the end of it, but
You talking about in selection?
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
but is there something mentally that they're selecting for? Is it like CQB as an example? Is it information processing? Is it decision making?
I never went back as a cadre member for that particular selection course. So the best answer I can give you is I don't know. I mean, it's standards based for sure. They're looking for you to be able to meet the standard. I am aware of sometimes there being personality conflicts, and that can be a problem. And I do know that they circulate so going back to before you even get the message that you're going to be screened positive and going to get the chance to go to selection, they will take a picture of everybody and they will put them up in the squadron space and they will solicit for feedback because there's no test out there that's perfect. And a lot of the times, especially in an interview setting, you're going to get somebody's best face. You would hope, right? I would actually like to meet somebody who's like, actually, I go into interviews and I really just try to.
I commit crimes every day.
Totally. Well, I said I broke the law, what I mean? Which it's like, whatever, it's civil, but yeah. So people put their best face forward, and part of that, of their selection process, is they solicit for feedback from people that may know the individual in case they might have missed something in the official process itself. I don't know. I mean, like if you put an X by the guy's name, I don't know if that would be enough to change their decision, but perhaps it's a data point that they can reference later on.
So that's interesting. And like, again, if it wasn't obvious from the context, it's only SEALs that are going through this.
Correct.
So you look at something like a CAG selection, they pull from the entire military.
That's because CAG goes through their selection process, which I've never gone through. And I've talked with Brent's actually probably my best resource on this, and we've only talked about it peripherally. The reason that at development group, I think the selection process can look differently is that every SEAL who's ever been a SEAL, we have the pin in the ground of years before we've gone through BUDS. So we've done the crucible where the curriculum is supposed to weed out those people that aren't going to be there. If you pull from all the branches, I think that's a little bit more difficult. So you have to array your training to align with that. The training pipelines are different from my understanding, and I think it's because of that reason.
Well, that's what I was getting at. Do you think it's helpful to only pull from SEALs because like some of the things that they're looking for are already there and they know that because everybody's gone through BUDS and they've been on the team already?
I don't know if it's helpful or not, because if that's all that mattered, then 40% of the guys wouldn't wash out. And you know what I mean? It's, there was a guy who was at A Squadron when we were there doing the cross-training workup and deployment, who had been a Navy diver previously. He's fantastic. I mean, I think there's an argument to be made. You're getting somebody from a blank slate and teaching and layering everything on top of that. I think there is some value to that versus maybe instead of just layering on top of a blank slate, you actually have to we got to chip away some bad habits and then reteach, right? Not that that person is not valuable, but that's the conversation. And I don't think there's any wrong in that. I think it's just different.
I would agree, and that's what I'm getting at. And like
Yeah.
to that point, like they do their selection and then they do their OTC. And this is they're one and the same, right? That's selection and training, or it was at the time.
Talking about for Green Team?
Yes.
Well, the selection had occurred in buds. Again, as far as the crucible aspect of it, from my understanding of for the CAD guys, there's kind of a crucible aspect to them going through that pipeline as well, which I think there needs to be, because again, you're a little bit less certain of everybody's background, whereas every SEAL that has ever been a SEAL, I can tell you almost everything about their background. You know what I mean? So I think it's just a different approach based on that. I say that as somebody who's only participated in one, and I'm not trying to speak with any level of authority on what the CAD guys do. That's just my understanding from the outside.
No, and same, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's curious to me, like what the kind of people that end up at each command, even though the selection processes are different, and you guys are kind of cut from the same cloth. It's just interesting.
I mean, I would be okay with Buds being a correspondence course online. Now that I'm out of the community, you know, what's the risk?
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the interview. If you got anything out of this video at all, please like the video, leave me a comment, tell me what you thought of the video, tell me who you'd like to see on the show. I really appreciate the support. It goes a long way on these platforms, as you guys know. Most importantly, I have some amazing guests that are coming in for interviews in the very near future, so please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of them. But that's it. I really appreciate your support. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.